Good morning, everybody, from Southern Shadows and Dust. Doing a video today on the William Wallace Cemetery between Robinsonville and Atmore. It's an old cemetery that for many years could not be accessed until the Sons of Confederate Veterans cleaned it up back in 2010. The most well-known grave in the cemetery is that of William Wallace, born 1830, died 1902. Wallace was responsible for being a pioneer of the process of digging trenches to float logs down the creeks and rivers of the area, into the rivers of the area, so to the sawmills. He was very well known for that. He also was a Confederate veteran. He was served in Company E of the 56th Alabama Cavalry. So he was an officer in the Confederate Army. Very unusual to find an officer's grave in such a place as this. But this was also his farm. He farmed this land, and he was well known in the local newspapers of the late 1890s and early 1900s as being a gentleman farmer, very progressive in his farming abilities and all the stuff that he did in that area. He also had a cotton gin that my educated guess, or maybe not so educated guess, was in that clump of trees right there. But there's nothing left of that today, of course. His wife is buried next to him, Nancy M., wife of William Wallace. She was a Jernigan. They lived at, originally was her maiden name. They started out in Milton. They say that all of the property Wallace's empire stretched from Wallace, Florida, close to Jay, to Wallace, Alabama, just west of Bruton. That was where he had his setup. That's where he had his sawmills. One story is even that he had a logging train that covered a lot of that. Now, this cemetery has other graves in it besides the Wallace graves. This was a family cemetery. It has several other interesting graves in it. Of course, a lot of them have overgrown. I will say the farmers around here have done a great job of keeping the cemetery sprayed, and that's kind of saved a lot of issues with it. Another grave here is that of Anna Louise, wife of E. Alexander, born February 13th, 1871, died February 26, 1904. We believe there's about 11 graves in this cemetery, most of them unmarked. There may be even more that's in the area, but as you can tell, it's kind of a snaky area to be tromping around. Another interesting bit of unknown in this cemetery is these gigantic clumps of concrete that are on the northwestern end of it. Don't really know what these are about, but I've often speculated that they probably had something to do with the cotton gin, or maybe even his house. Some of the old writings talk about a grove of oaks close to where he was buried. That must have, without a doubt, have been here. The Montgomery Advertiser, 2 days after his death, reported on March 16, 1902, an obituary, death of Major Wallace. He was a substantial citizen of Escambia County. Major William Wallace, one of Atmore's beloved and most honored citizens, passed away Thursday at 5 p.m. He was up walking about as usual when he was suddenly seized with a chill, after which he became unconscious and never again rallied. At 2 o'clock Friday morning, his spirit was claimed by the hand of death. Major Wallace was born in Wilcox County 73 years ago, but for the last 17 years he had been one of Escambia's most prosperous and substantial farmers. He owned a lovely country home about 4 miles from here. By untiring energy he had made it one of the most desirable country homes in this country. Major Wallace was a most hospitable and congenial character, always extending the hand of welcome to the young as well as the old. He was an honest, quiet, loyal citizen, one whom everybody esteemed highly. He leaves a devoted wife and 5 sons and 3 daughters. His remains were laid in their last resting place today near his home. By his special request, witnessed by a large concourse of friends and relatives, Reverend H.R. Walker officiated. And that was on this date, March 16th, 1902, that was published in the Montgomery Advertiser. That paper in that era covered a lot of news on local people. There still wasn't a large number of newspapers in the state at the time, so it made a lot of sense for them to keep up with, especially deaths of prominent citizens and such as that. So this cemetery in 2010, the William Carney Camp Sons of Confederate Veterans, as I'd mentioned, restored this cemetery, cut out all the undergrowth, saved the trees, the ones with shade and such, and I was glad to be a part of that. One thing we want to do on Southern Shadows and Dust is try to document these at-risk cemeteries that are in danger of disappearing within the next generation or so, to try to leave some record that they existed. So just recapping on what we learned about William Wallace today, that cemetery is located between Atmore and Robinsonville on what was one time called the Atmore to Robinsonville Road. It goes back well over 100 years, roughly 120 years. Wallace was a mover and a shaker in the area. He came to the Canoe Robinsonville area in the 1880s, 1890s, after already having served in the state legislature in Florida, Santa Rosa County representative. He had logging interests, sawmills. He was a pioneer of digging ditches to float logs down the river into sawmill areas, and some have said he had a logging railroad that stretched from Wallace, Florida, down around Jay to Wallace, Alabama, just a little west of Bruton. Either way, he was a major name in the area back in those days, virtually forgotten now. In 2010, Sons of Confederate Veterans cleaned up that old cemetery, brought it back. Farmers have since kept it sprayed. The owners have been really good about letting us come and go out there and checking it out. Wallace was a Confederate officer, a progressive farmer, and when he passed, he was well noted and documented about the affection the community had for him. He had a cotton gin out there in that area where we were at a while ago, and that the story goes is that he actually ran an ad because some of the local cotton gins were, I guess, kind of complaining that he was stealing their thunder in the cotton ginning industry, and he said he just simply wanted to give folks a choice, and that's how he stayed there. Southern Shadows and Dust is going to attempt to document a lot of these at-risk cemeteries that are in danger of fading away. A lot of these cemeteries, they don't have caretakers, they don't have committees that go out and clean them up, and I think it's real important to document those and try to preserve their memories so that generations down the road we can remember where these people were and where they were buried. All of them had stories to tell, and I'm just honored to be able to tell some of those stories through my articles in the Tri-City Ledger and the Atmore News magazine and online like this. So if you like the stories, click like and subscribe, and we'll look to get more of these out there. Also remember to check out lulu.com, Amazon, Barnes & Noble for the compilations of 5 different books that I've compiled, articles that I've written in the newspapers over the last 20 years on historical subjects. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see